Hi there, this is Tammie with SEKLS, and we have Sarah Mitchell with us here today. She is the rep for Mackin, the Mackin Educational Corporation. And I think I have that right. Is that right, Sarah?
Close enough.
Okay. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about some of their products. So thank you for being with us today, Sarah, and take it away.
Well, Tammie, thanks for having me, and I'm glad to meet with all of you today and share a little bit about Mackin Educational Resources, my story with them, and how we can help you out. So I'm going to share my screen real quick and show you a couple of slides, and then we're going to dive into Mackin.com. So this is my lovely family this last 4th of July, and I live in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Husker fan, thrilled that we get to play football again. Here are my contacts. You can find me at sarah.mitchell@mackin.com or on Twitter at @smitchell3. I was an elementary school librarian for a number of years in Omaha. I had 2 elementary schools, about 700 students, about 70 staff, and I was also a part-time librarian at an alternative high school. So that is my background, and I went to work for the company that I bought all my books from because they were amazing to work with. So Mackin as a company has a number of different arms, not just school and public libraries, but we also help with new schools. We have our own bindery in Topeka that creates our Mackin bound products. We do professional learning, classroom tools, and Mackin Via, which we'll talk about a little later. But today we're just going to focus on the school solutions. So one of the beauties of Mackin is that we work with over 18,000 different publishers with access to over 3 million print titles, over 2 million ebooks, audiobooks, and databases. And our primary focus is pre-K-12 schools and public libraries in their youth services. We work with school librarians, curriculum directors, and the whole gamut of our educational realm. So free services. This is one of the first things that drew me to Mackin as a librarian was all of the free processing that they provided for us. Everything came to me shelf ready. All I needed to do was stamp it, import my MARC records, and put it on the shelf. Our MARC records are done by cataloging librarians. They are pristine, and they work with every single cataloging software that's out there. The other team that really won my heart was our collection development team. Anytime I wasn't sure about what to add to our library, I could do a custom list request, and they would send me a beautifully curated list of highly vetted titles to consider for purchase, and they do that at no additional charge. So also, Mackin is a Greenbush partner. So what does that mean to you? Mackin is an awarded vendor in a national cooperative purchasing contract called AEPA. And in the state of Kansas, Greenbush administers that contract. So all schools and public libraries can be part of or can access that Greenbush contract. So that allows you to receive an additional 8% discount on all of your print, an additional 7% on all ebooks and digital audiobooks, an additional 3% on any makerspace tools. So Deb, one of our great customers in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, said, I cannot imagine ever doing business with anyone other than Mackin for any reason. And honestly, that was me as a school librarian. Mackin was so great to work with. Customer service is amazing. So before we go to Mackin.com, because you are often the go-to person for anything literacy in your buildings, I wanted to let you know that we also do classroom solutions. We have a 4-step process for making sure that we deliver to your classrooms exactly what it is that they need. Tools for books for level libraries, summer reading, those novel sets for the classroom, be they print or ebooks, classroom libraries, and any curricular support for social studies, ELA, or science. We help with that as well. So I'm going to hop out and take you to Mackin.com. So when you first come to Mackin.com, you'll need to log in. And I'm going to just log out so you see what that login process is like. So right here is our login button. And if you don't already have an account at Mackin.com, you can create that account right here. So if you're new to Mackin.com, when you log in, instead of a shopping cart, you'll see create a new list. So if I'm creating a new list, I can do that right here. And I'm going to give my list a name. And then let us know if it's for the library or for the classroom. I oftentimes recommend putting in a dollar limit. That allows us to come right up to that dollar amount and fill everything so that you don't have any funds that have been encumbered or locked down and not spent. Remember too that you're going
Sarah,
to be
let me
receiving.
stop you and ask you just one question.
You bet.
So if they don't have an account, can they make their own login?
Absolutely.
Or is that something they need to talk to you about?
No, that's a great question. Thank you, Tammie. So when you register and create that account, your username is always going to be your email address, and you get to create your own password. If you serve more than one school, that's an easy thing to do. We're going to connect you to every school that you serve. The way that you're going to let us know about that is you're just going to go on to the live chat, which is open during business hours, and just let us know what schools to associate you with. Or you can call the 800 number. One of the beauties of working with Mackin is there is always a live person on the other end of that number. There's never a phone bank, which I adore. You'll probably talk with Cheryl. She's delightful. Or you can email us at customerservice@mackin.com. So if you do serve more than one school, when you're creating a list for that school, please be sure to include the name of the school in that list so that we know how to properly process those titles. So when I'm talking about creating specifications, we can help you through that process. You can either send us specs from any other vendor that does processing the way you like and just give us a new barcode range, or we can help you out by going here to specs, my account and specs, and then either using the editable PDF, which is right here, or you can go through this form as well. When I work with a new librarian, I always recommend that you run a collection analysis. I recommend to new librarians that you run a collection analysis with any vendor that you use. And this does a couple of things for you. It allows us to have a title match, which allows us to see and tells you when you're looking at titles if you already have that title in your collection or something similar. It also allows us to make really quality recommendations if you're needing that custom list. Export instructions for any of the software solutions for libraries can be found by clicking on export instructions. I'm actually going to hop out of here and show you how you can find some great titles on Mackin.com. So one of the first things I like to show people is Best of Mackin. So we have 3 librarians at Mackin for whom their sole job is to each month go through about 40 different review sources looking for titles that have been highly reviewed. One of those librarians does elementary school, one does middle school, and one does high school. I always thought that purchasing for a middle school would be a minefield because so much of the young adult literature is pretty spicy. Well, our middle school Best of Mackin librarian looks for titles that are perfectly suited for that middle school crowd. If I can get it to load. While we're waiting on that, I also want to show you here services and products. This is where you can find a full listing of all of the different ways that Mackin can serve your school. So our library services, collection management, processing, and cataloging is all in here. If you haven't genreified your collection, we can help with that too. Finally it loaded. So our best of Mackin is found right here. So let's say that you're looking for some new titles for your middle school students. I can look at that spring middle school list, and you'll notice that anytime I'm looking for a title that is a best of Mackin, it's going to be indicated by this daisy. So I can sort this list by publication year or title, popularity. There's a number of different ways to search this. Maybe I'm looking for some high-low titles, some titles that are interesting for my middle school crowd, but maybe serving that student that's reading below grade level. I can also filter this list by the product. Hardcover, paperback, Mackin bound. What is a Mackin bound? Great question. We own our own bindery in Topeka, and a Mackin bound is a paperback that we put a hardcover binding on. These titles are guaranteed for as long as that book is in print. If anything should ever happen to that binding, we're going to replace it free of charge with the exact same barcode so that you don't have to create a new MARC record for it. They're durable. They're a great price point. The price point is in between the trade hardcover, those that you would find at a Barnes & Noble, and between the paperback. So it's a value price and a guaranteed binding, and man, are they ever durable. So I want to show you, some of these are not yet published because they're coming out in this spring. So I'm going to refine my search to those that are available so we can look at some ways that you can decide if this is the right book for you. So
are your libraries looking at advanced reader copies of these books, or is this something that you're working with a publisher to promote their product?
So when you see titles that are not yet published, publishers always let us know when a book is going to be coming out. So would we have already taken a look at that? Yes. When you visit the Mackin headquarters, we are in a southern suburb of Minneapolis. There are books everywhere, and we have just a collaborative reading environment where everybody is always taking a book off of one of our book carts to read. So you'll be able to see reviews by different organizations, by different review sources. So here's a good example. When I come into this, I can jump to reviews and see all of the full text reviews that we have access to. So you can see that this is a Kirkus starred. I can also come down and look for similar searches, look at subject headings, and see what other title lists that this may have landed on. So to take another look at our services and products, I know that school librarians wear a number of different hats, and a great tool is Mackin Curator. So Mackin Curator is our subscription service where you decide what you want to spend, and 3 times a year, we're going to send you titles that meet your exact needs. So you're going to let us know what areas of your collection you would like to purchase titles for, if it's just high interest titles, if it's high-low, graphic novels, nonfiction, whatever that may be. You decide what you want to spend and when you want to start. We're going to send you an email about 7 days ahead of time, and you get 7 days to approve those titles before we send you any of the titles on that particular list. They're going to come to you fully processed. We never start a subscription without doing a collection analysis first, so that we don't send you a duplicate of what you already have in your collection. we're never going to send you number 2 or 3 in a series when you don't have number 1. Speaking about that 2 or 3 in a series, I don't know about you, but especially when I was new to a library or new to a collection, I wasn't really sure what we were missing. And especially after our COVID spring, we all had titles that didn't come back. So we can come to title list, custom list request. And in a custom list request, we're first going to make sure our school information for you is correct. But then we will do a series fill once you've run a collection analysis with us. We can come in and do a series fill and let you know exactly what you're missing from your fiction series, whether fiction or graphic novels. It's a great service. I know I had promised my students when I did a book fair one year that I would fill in everything that I was missing from the Aaron Hunter series. Holy buckets, I never knew what a prolific writer. Actually, there's a number of people that write under that author's name. But yeah, we did a series fill just to find out what we were missing from that specific series. And this series fill here from Mackin will let you know what you're missing from any series.
What a great, great service. I love that.
One last story before I leave Mackin.com about the wonderful customer service at Mackin. When I was a school librarian, I had ordered a graphic novel series, and I ordered them in Mackin bound because I had a razor thin budget. Well, they came, of course, they came fully processed. And I read through a couple, and I was so disappointed. It wasn't that they were naughty, but I just didn't feel that they were well written. So I called customer service and I talked with Michelle, who is my customer service representative. And she said, and I asked her, can I just like peel off the tags and send them back? And she said, Sarah, you do with them as you see fit, and we'll put a credit in your account. Who does that? Another great example of our customer service, when our English language standards changed, I needed mentor texts for narrative nonfiction. It was a style of writing that I wasn't very familiar with, and my teachers were asking me for those mentor texts. Well, I sent a custom list request to Mackin, and they sent me this beautifully curated list of highly reviewed titles, knowing what I already had in my collection. And I was able to choose from that titles that would fit at every grade level so that students could then exemplify that style of writing, and teachers could wrap their heads around what narrative nonfiction looked like. And basically, I became the district trainer all off that list that Mackin had sent to me. Mackin's an amazing partner. I would love to partner with you too. If you have any questions about how to order from Mackin.com, the services that we provide, please don't hesitate to reach out at sarah.mitchell@Mackin.com. Tammie, thank you so much for allowing me to reach out to your librarians, letting them know how Mackin can come along and partner. We really like to partner with schools.
Well, Sarah, you certainly have been very responsive to any questions I've had, and you've done a great job with customer service. So thank you for taking the time today to go through your products. And I hope this is helpful for any of the school or public librarians out there to know a little bit more about Mackin. You mentioned, Sarah, that you had put together a Google folder that I will provide access to in a separate link under this link to this recording. Do you want to talk a little bit about what's in there?
You bet. So in this Google Drive folder, you'll find today's presentation. You're also going to find a subsequent presentation about our digital platform, Mackin Via, which, by the way, Mackin Via is free. The only cost is any content that you would put onto it, which is amazing. And also within there, you're going to find a number of different flyers that our professional learning department has put together that are great to share with your administrators when they're asking about, well, why would we select Mackin Via? Or what are the discounts provided on that Greenbush contract? So we have a lot of different resources that you can access on that Google Drive folder.
Great. And just one last question, and that's about ebooks. This has been something that has been really, really needed as the pandemic has swept across the country. Can you talk to us a little bit about how ebooks work through Mackin and what librarians have access to?
Absolutely. So additional information will be in the presentation about ebooks that will be subsequent. I wanted to keep our time together here a little bit short because I know you wear a lot of hats. But over this pandemic, the one question I so often get from librarians is, how do I get multi-user titles into the hands of teachers that are looking for a specific title? Well, sadly, or just as a matter of fact, publishers decide how their ebooks are going to be distributed, and publishers are in a business. So a lot of those titles, 1984, To Kill a Mockingbird, they just aren't available as multi-user titles. It's just the fact of the matter. So Mackin, initially, we released all of our Mackin classics free till the end of this calendar year. And so all of those titles, the classics, are all available multi-user till the end of the year on our Mackin Via platform, which is an amazing tool. It allows students to highlight and annotate, export those notes to their Google Drive and share them with their teachers, so there's accountability for how those students are interacting with text. The other step that Mackin has taken to provide what schools need in a budget-friendly way are what we call class sets. And that's basically a short-term rental distribution model of those highly needed titles that ELA teachers were wanting in their classroom. Lastly, another way that we have come together to try and provide for Kansas libraries, school libraries, titles that their students are looking for is through the Kansas Library Consortium. Now, technically our sign up ended last Friday, but because there's been such a need, we're leaving it open for libraries and schools to go ahead and register. And so what that is providing is a way for all of us as schools to pool our money together and thus increase our buying power. So as an example, I have a school that is a very small school. It's only about 180 students. So their buy-in based upon school population costs $250. Because of the number of elementary schools that we have participating, they're going to have access to over $22,000 in ebooks. And these are ebooks that Kansas librarians have come together to curate. We're really looking at titles that support Kansas curriculum, the new social studies standards, the William Allen White titles that are available as single user. And just to let you know, publishers require that in a shared collection, all of those titles be single user titles. So we're being mindful of that. And those really popular titles, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the William Allen White titles, we're making sure that there are multiple copies of those titles for student use. So those titles are really being curated with a mind towards choice reading. Those titles that we know students want to pick up and read because we know we need to keep students reading during this pandemic.
So then is there an annual subscription price to be able to access the books that the schools purchase?
Great question. So each year, schools will subscribe to the Kansas Libraries Consortium. But oh my gosh, what happens next year if there's a hiccup in my budget? Will I lose everything that I had access to last year? That's the beauty of working with Mackin Via. This is why in my former district, we went from one provider to Mackin Via, because you don't have to pay every year. Now, will you get access to that next year's list? No. Will you lose access to the previous year's titles? No. With perpetual titles, you will always have access to those. A perpetual With Mackin, perpetual means perpetual. Now, that's not to say we're not putting some subscription titles into this list. About 10 to 15% of the titles will be subscription, which means we'll have access either for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. New titles that come out are often subscription titles. In fact, I want to say all of the William Allen White, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3, are 1, 2, or 3 year subscription titles. So are those going to go away? Yes, that's the publisher subscription license requirements. But anything that is perpetual will always be in your Mackin VIA.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for the information. So I hope this has been very helpful for everyone else. Anything else you want to add?
No, just come to visit us at mackin.com. And if you need me, I'm always at the other end of that email address, Sarah, S-A-R-A, Mitchell, sarah.mitchell@mackin.com.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thanks, everybody.